Well, our boys are having a terrible time trying to destroy the guns of Abalone. For last time, you may recall, they were forced down on the Rock of Gibraltar and thrown into prison.
In the advertising game, this would be known as hard sell.
Not only hard, but seemingly escape-proof.
That sounded like the narrator's line, Rock.
Ingenuity and the fact that they couldn't spend an entire episode within four walls brought about a discovery of a secret passage.
Where do you suppose it leads?
Only one way to find out.
Ask somebody.
Nope. Follow me.
And the plucky little squirrel led the way. Unfortunately, he was plucky when he should have been lucky. The secret passage brought them before a firing squad.
Article 22 of the Gibraltar Constitution stipulates that all escapees must be dealt with severely.
Oh, please, sir, don't spank us.
Bullwinkle, they're going to shoot us.
Take away our good conduct medals, but don't spank us.
Did you hear me?
Reprimand us, if you will. Call us names.
They're going to shoot us.
How about that?
Elevate your weapons, men. Ready, aim.
Just a moment, Major.
Something wrong?
I thought it was customary for the condemned to be granted a last request.
Not according to our Constitution. Look for yourself.
And there on page 846 were the words, "No last request for condemned men."
How about condemned mooses and flying squirrels?
Oh, well, that was different.
Very well, you may have a last request. What is it?
Not to be shot.
The request had to be granted, thus Bullwinkle and Rocky were given pardons and put aboard the first boat leaving for Bayonne, New Jersey.
Is that anywhere near the island of Abalone?
It better be.
This gives us a splendid opportunity to revisit Abalone and see how things are progressing. Yes, Boris is still at it.
How long you going to keep up bombardment, Boris?
I told you until world gives to me Bullwinkle and Rocky. Keep sending message on shortwave.
I keep sending, but nobody sends back.
Try Morse code.
Samuel B. Morse?
Samuel B. LMA, I don't care.
Meanwhile, Rocky and Bullwinkle were having problems of their own.
I said let go of the wheel.
But, Captain, you just gotta make us stop at Abalone and let us off.
This is the Bayonne Express, boys. And you know what express means.
Some kind of Italian coffee, isn't it?
It was just about that time that a nasty group of clouds formed overhead.
Captain, the barometer's falling. Well, nail it back up.
Please, sir, won't you please put us off at Abalone?
Not now, Sonny. I don't like the way my ship is behaving.
The captain had ample reason for alarm. For the storm had suddenly increased to typhoon proportions, and the tiny vessel was buffeted about on the raging seas. By now, all hands were on deck, and even our heroes were garbed in sou'westers.
I wish I had a box of soda crackers tucked under my arm. I'd feel more secure.
I'd feel more secure with a different captain. I don't like the way he sticks his arm out the window every time he makes a left turn.
Engine room, can you hear me? Aye, aye, Captain. I need more steam to ride this squall out. More steam, you hear? But, sir, it's hotter than Florida down here already. Well, if you're hot, open a window.
Well, you don't open a porthole during a storm without suffering the consequences. The sea came in, and the fire went out.
Well, at least it's cooler.
I think our pace is slackened.
You're right. We're not going ahead anymore.
True, because they were now going down instead. Be with us next time for Seasick Bullwinkle or How Green Was My Moose.
I love to play horseshoes. I bet I get a ringer the first time. Whoops. Well, I'll get it this time.
Oh, but what are you trying to do, son?
Oh, I'm trying to play horseshoes, Dad.
Here, let me have those.
Wow! How'd you ever learn to do that?
Practice, Junior, practice.
I smell a moral coming up.
Correct. Practice makes perfect, which brings to mind a fable entitled The Coyote and the Jackrabbits. Most rabbits are so poor that they're forced to live in a hole in the ground, but Hasty J. Rabbit is not most rabbits.
Wallace?
You called, sir?
Yes. Did you take that truckload of money into the bank?
I did, sir.
Good. Now, bring a bottle of my finest carrot juice, vintage 69.
I'm afraid there's no time for that, sir. You're due at the track.
In case you're wondering, Hasty J. Rabbit made his fortune at the races, not by betting, by running. 7 days a week, Hasty outran the dogs, but years of this killing pace began to take its toll.
Oh, I've had it. I can't run another step.
Without crossing the finish line, he was finished.
Hasty, your racing days are over unless you go away for a nice long rest. It's either that or an operation.
Come now, Doctor. Let's not be splitting hairs.
So off they went, deciding that the peaceful quiet of the desert would be just the thing.
Wallace, my carrot juice.
Sorry, sir. They don't grow carrots in the desert.
But they did grow coyotes, big, mean ones.
I'm your next-door neighbor.
Hasty considered this to be a rather strange way of greeting one's neighbor, and he became more convinced of this when, during his bath...
Don't forget to wash behind the ears, neighbor.
And even that night when he went to bed...
Night, neighbor.
This went on for 3 weeks until...
The desert isn't agreeing with me, Wallace.
It's that ruffian coyote, sir. He's making a nervous wreck of you.
Well, we might as well pack our things and go back east.
Oh, let's not be hasty. Suppose you engaged the coyote in a legitimate fight and thrashed him soundly. I'll wager he'd bother you no more.
This sounded logical, so Hasty instructed his faithful servant to deliver the challenge.
'Tis done, sir. He agrees to meet you in the ring 2 weeks from today.
Is that all he said?
No, he told me to give you something.
Then give it to me.
Very well, sir.
Early the next morning, training got underway.
I'm afraid this is all a waste of time. I'll never be able to beat that coyote.
You will with practice, sir. Just leave it to me. Now, this is called road work. When I fire this pistol, you take a brisk 5-mile jaunt. Ready? Get set. Sorry about that, sir. This time, I'll use a water pistol to start you off.
Oh, good idea.
On your mark, get set. Hard water.
All right, so road work is important. But be careful this time.
Oh, no need to worry, sir. This time, I'll use my finger instead of a gun. Ready?
No, but go ahead anyway.
On your mark, get set.
By this time, Hasty had progressed far enough to take on a sparring partner.
All right, sir. Now get in there and...
Don't point your finger.
Sorry, sir. I merely wish to instruct you to pretend that your sparring partner is the coyote.
Now, good idea.
Hiya, neighbor.
What do you mean, pretend? That was the coyote.
My apologies, sir. He was the only partner I could get.
Look, every time we try this road work bit, I get hurt. This time you do the running, and I'll fire the gun.
Oh, you can't do that, sir. The gun isn't loaded.
Really? You're right. It isn't loaded. Now...
Their training program completed, the fateful day of the big fight arrived.
I think I'm overtrained, Wallace. I can't even lift my hands.
You won't have to, sir. I'll take care of everything.
At the sound of the bell, the faithful servant grabbed a section of a nearby cactus, swung, and launched his master into the fray with such force that... So you see, my boy, it's quite obvious that practice makes perfect.
It seems more obvious to me, Pop, that in this case, cactus makes perfect.
By golly, Junior, I do believe you got the point.
Tonight, Clubhouse 90 presents She Can't Pay the Rent, written and directed by Ingmar Bedinoff. Bullwinkle, is dress rehearsal already. Why can't you remember lines?
I remember the lines, okay? It's them pesky words that's giving me trouble.
Well, maybe if you ran through the part yourself, Ingemar, then Bullwinkle might remember it better.
Say, it's a pretty good idea. Let's run through it. Places. Action.
Is cold. No food for baby. No fuel for fire. Come in.
I've come to collect rent.
But I can't pay rent.
But you must pay rent.
You see how tricky them lines are?
But I have no money.
Well, maybe we can make arrangement. What do you say, Toots?
Oh, cruel fate. Oh, woe is me.
I'll pay the rent.
Curses foiled again. All right, you got it, Bullwinkle?
Sure.
Okay, from the top.
He's cold. No food for baby. No fuel for fire. No fuel. No fuel. What have you come for?
Well, I heard you was out of fuel, so I brought some. And some baby food, too. Googie, 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 googie.
Cut it out!
Didn't you come to collect rent?
Oh, yeah, I come to collect the rent.
But I can't pay the rent.
Well, that's okay. Forget it.
I'll pay the rent.
He went the other way.
Mr. Villain, sir, the rent, the rent.
Boo, boo, boo!
Inspector Nathaniel Fenwick had decided that it was about time that his daughter had her coming out party.
Oh, Father, really? With all the trimmings?
With all the trimmings, my dear.
Oh, joy!
Pardon me, sir, but isn't Nell a little old to be having a coming-out party?
Of course she's old. But as usual, Do-Right, you don't get the significance. Why, this isn't an ordinary coming-out party. It's a master plan to catch Snidely Whiplash.
I don't quite follow you, sir.
I'll put it another way, Dudley. What is it that Snidely wears that he is never without?
A leer, sir?
No, Dudley, his top hat and opera cape.
So?
Don't you realize, Dudley, that this is the image he's created? Without his top hat and cape, he's nothing. Look.
Funny, sir. I've seen that before.
Of course you have. This is a Bullwinkle hat. Can you imagine collecting mortgages in a Bullwinkle hat? Why, he'll be laughed out of every home.
But what's that got to do with Nell's coming-out party?
Snidely owns an opera hat and cape, right?
Right.
Well, where in this awful wilderness can you attend a full-dress social function?
Well, there's that little theater group.
No place. That's why I'm having this grand social event. Snidely won't be able to resist it. He'll check his hat and cape at the door, and then we'll substitute this Bullwinkle hat for his opera hat.
An invitation, Homer, an engraven invitation to Nell Fenwick's coming-out party.
But Snidely, that's at the RCMP camp.
Homer, I'd go to the ends of the earth to attend a social event of this prominence.
But don't it seem strange that a 37-and-a-half-year-old girl should be having a coming-out party?
With me top hat and cape, I'll be in the height of fashion. A party, whee!
Check your hat and cape, sir.
Certainly.
And while Snidely Whiplash was tripping the light fantastic, a Bullwinkle hat and large check coat was substituted for his top hat and cape.
Thank you, my dear. I don't know when I've had a better time. My hat and cape, please.
Here you are, sir.
No, this isn't my top hat and cape.
I'm sorry, but it's the only one that's left. It must be yours.
I'm telling you, it is not my hat and cape. You won't hear the last of it.
The next day, Snidely Whiplash went about the Canadian mountainside trying to collect mortgages.
Either pay me the money or out into the cold you go.
Look at that funny moose hat!
Oh, please pay me the mortgage, please, will you?
Such a funny hat!
And so, Dudley, Snidely's having a terrible time collecting mortgages. They laugh him out of their homes. Without his hat and cape, he's nothing.
It certainly must be a powerful symbol. It is arch-villain Dudley Do-Right.
All right, Dudley, you've had your little joke. You can take off Snidely's hat.
And I've got you, Inspector Fenwick, in me clutches.
Where did I go wrong?
Snidely, there's a new arch-villain who has moved into the territory. He wears a top hat and a cape, and he has already tied 27 old ladies to the railroad tracks. He's going to beat your record.
Well, what do you expect me to do about it?
Aren't you going to pulverize him, Whiplash? I mean, 27 old ladies. He's cutting in on you a bit.
In a moose hat, he'd only laugh at me.
Can't you stop him?
There's only one way. There's only one man can stop him, and that man is Dudley Do-Right. And you've got to send Dudley Do-Right to stop this fiend, this arch-villain. As a taxpayer, I demand that you apprehend him.
Snidely, we can't send Dudley Do-Right to apprehend this arch-villain.
Why not?
Because that arch-villain is Dudley Do-Right.
Stalwart, true, eyes of blue, Dudley Do-Right?
The very same. He tried on your hat and cape and went berserk. He thinks he's you.
Oh!
Say,
If he's masquerading as you, why don't you masquerade as him?
I never realized the truth in that old maxim, clothes make the man. Look at me, stalwart, true, eyes of blue.
Arch villain Dudley Do-Right, caught you at last.
You'll never take me alive, stalwart true with eyes of blue, Snidely Whiplash.
Good work, Snidely Whiplash.
Inspector, there's one favor now that I've captured arch villain Dudley Do-Right that I would like to ask.
What's that, Whip?
Could I please have my top hat and cape back? For sentimental reasons.
Of course, dear boy. Now I have you in me power. Where did I go wrong?
Well, all's well that ends well, eh, Inspector?
Yes, but you know, Do-Right, while he was a Mountie, you could have learned something from that boy.
What a fiendish way to get revenge.
I don't want revenge, I want Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Little does Boris know that Rocky and Bullwinkle have volunteered to silence the guns of Abalone. Unfortunately, they have run into a number of obstacles, among them a storm at sea, which has caused their ship to begin sinking right under their feet.
Where else?
Quick, we gotta tell the captain to abandon ship.
Well, you can look it up in the almanac. You'll see that that particular storm lasted 14 days. And when it cleared, the good ship Lollipop was no longer afloat. But one of her longboats was, crammed with passengers and crew.
Engine room, why don't you answer?
Maybe they went out to lunch.
Captain, the men from the engine room are right here in this rowboat. Your ship sank.
And it looked as if this one would too, for suddenly out of nowhere, huge shells came screaming by.
It must be the guns of Abalone.
They shouldn't let those fish have guns.
Bullwinkle, we may have a chance to carry out our mission.
Yeah.
Under Rocky's able command, the longboat pushed through the water until eventually it came to rest on the sands of the island of Abalone.
Okay, now I need an alarm clock and a few sticks of TNT.
Luckily, one of the crew members had salvaged those very items before the ship went down. It didn't take the nimble squirrel long to fashion a time bomb.
You fellers wait right here while Rock and I go blow up the cannons.
What right have you got to give orders?
It's my show.
Oh.
Through nook and crannies, over Smith and Dale's, they crept and crawled, inching their way even closer to the site where the gigantic guns stood.
But Boris, darling, is getting Moose and Squirrel worth blowing up world bit by bit.
I will not dignify the question with an answer, Natasha. Load the cannon.
Bullwinkle, I think I've heard that voice before.
Wouldn't be H.V. Kaltenborn, would it?
Stand back, Natasha. I'm going to shoot all 5 cannons at once.
But Boris, honey, baby, you will blow up everything.
So what? Moose and Squirrel has not showed up. I got nothing to live for.
I beg to differ with you, but Moose and Squirrel has showed up. In fact, we've been showed up quite a few times.
Is them the blight of my life? Hand me my pistol.
No got pistol, Boris. All we got is these big cannons.
That's good enough. Help me aim.
Throw the time bomb, Bullwinkle.
What time bomb, Rock?
The one I made.
Oh, that one. Now, where'd I put that thing?
While Bullwinkle searched, the guns of Abalone were lowered into firing position.
Maybe you dropped it somewhere.
And just as Bullwinkle leaned over to look for the bomb, fire! Unfortunately for Boris, he had aimed all 5 cannons right at each other. The guns were completely destroyed. Boris and Natasha were transported to the proper authorities and received severe reprimands for their behavior, also 20 years each. As for Bullwinkle and Rocky, exhausted after their trying ordeal, they returned home and immediately went to bed.
Oh, boy, I could sleep for a week.
Me too.
Say, did you ever find the time bomb?
What time bomb?
Never mind. Set the clock for 7 tomorrow morning.
I already did.
Fellas, I think it's only fair to warn you that the time bomb is on the table ticking away.
Doesn't matter.
Well, why not?
That clock always runs slow.
Well, yes, but it... Oh, never mind. Be with us again next time for a different adventure. Maybe with 2 different stars. Run slow.